All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome for our second stream of the day where we find out what is happening over at the annual Porcupine Freedom Festival, also known for shorthand as Porkfest. It's an event that I've been going to for the last 3 to 4 years. We always set up this like crypto booth over there. You can see right there, we got Bitcoin Motorist. We got Surfer Jim right next to him. You can see the hats as I'm confiscatable on it. I know the camera isn't very zoomed in. And we also have a new guest to this program, Triple Hodl, that is over there on that table. They will try to pull in random guests and get their thoughts on Bitcoin as they walk by. And if they are into shitcoins, we will do our best to troll them as much as we can. Before we get intros from the crew, just want to do a little screen share on this event. It's a really, really fun event. Used to be all Bitcoin, and then it got taken over by shitcoiners. And then some of us started to go there and trying to get people off of shitcoinery and back onto Bitcoin. It's taking place right now in New Hampshire. And it's been happening for probably over 20 years. And I'm sure it will happen again next year. All right. So without any further ado, let's introduce the panel we'll be chatting with. We got Bitcoin Motorist. Why don't you introduce the table for us, buddy?
Sure thing. Thanks, Tone. First of all, you should be lucky you're not here because you just said this is a crypto lounge, and I've been kicking people out for calling it the crypto lounge. So it's the Bitcoin lounge, not the crypto lounge. And I just want to say I got my Bitcoin psychopath shirt on for this, especially for this stream. Yeah, I'm Bitcoin Motorist. I'm running the Bitcoin lounge here with the help of Surfer Jim. You guys all know Surfer Jim, and then Surfer Jim, say hello.
Hey, for everybody listening, thanks for tuning in. And next year you should try to get here because this is like a really, really cool vibe event. Everybody's super nice. Everybody's into freedom and get rid of the stupid government that's screwing us over. And it's the place you want to be if you want to live sovereign.
And I want to introduce someone new to the show, Triple Hodl. So yeah, you got a really cool shirt, Triple Hodl. I love that shirt. I don't know if you can kind of hold it up so that people can see. It's the infinity symbol over 21M. So yeah, say hello, Triple Hodl. Hopefully everyone can hear you fine.
Hi, everybody. This is my first Porkfest, and Jim's right. The vibe is awesome. If anybody can make it, it's definitely worth coming to.
Yeah, sure thing. So the reason why I wanted to put on this panel is because a lot of people here at Porkfest they love Bitcoin, but they love crypto, and everyone here is a libertarian, so everyone here believes in the free market. So I just wanted to make a distinction between Bitcoin and everything else because to me, it's not really a free market issue because if you have several different currencies that are competing, then you have a whole bunch of efficiency that is lost. It's almost like if you're in a village where everyone speaks a different language, and I think you've used that metaphor as well. Or if a keyboard, each company that made a keyboard made it differently, so the letters were in a different place. So to me, it's not about Bitcoin being a monopoly or Bitcoin being a company. It's more of just a Bitcoin as a protocol or a standard that everyone kind of uses, kind of like TCP/IP. And I think that's kind of lost on most people. They kind of view these as stocks or as corporations that are competing with each other. And so this is the reason why I wanted to put this on to kind of try to make this point, kind of have a few people come up here and discuss what their thoughts are for about 5 minutes or so, and then just kind of see what everyone's perspective is. Do you have anything to add to that, Tone, or Jim, or anybody else?
Well, real quick, I just want to point out to my audience that you guys are not sitting at a table just for me. There is an audience sitting there watching these guys. So the panel is more for the attendees at Porkfest, and we're just live streaming it. I couldn't be there this year. So I'm just here to also bring this little bit of Bitcoin education to the channel, which has been lacking that since we stopped the news show. I'm also wearing my shitcoin shirt. If you guys can see it on the camera,
the audience can see it here. The audience can't see it, but the camera can see it.
This is a shirt with about 40 or 50 different shitcoins, all in a beautiful emoji of a poop. So this is a great shirt. I forgot who made this for me, but it's awesome. All right, guys, go ahead. Floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Jim. Jump in. What are your thoughts on what separates Bitcoin from everything else, and if there is a distinction, and what that distinction is?
I just want to touch on something real quick, Tone. You'd be proud of what I found in my souvenirs from previous conferences. I have sitting on the picnic table way behind me a roll of shitcoin toilet paper, where
Oh
essentially
yeah, that was great.
it has a different shitcoin on it. Most of them are already dead from years ago. It's
Yeah, I
funny.
haven't heard of most of them. I was looking through it. I couldn't even.
I just
remember
left it there for people to like look at it and sort of get the idea of what they all really are. Just wipe your ass with all of them.
And
Don't waste it.
also in Porkfest fashion, since people just like drink beer over there starting at around 9 a.m., I'm gonna pour myself a glass of tequila as I listen to you guys educate the audience.
Yeah. So one other thing I do want to say, you know, specifically what Patrick said, he gave a good example about how people do converge on standards. Like in this case, he's talking about a standard in money, and I'm not against competing monies. What I think is disingenuous is the fact that people equate their shitcoins to Bitcoin, and the average person has no idea how to make sense of the differences. And I boil it down to a technological difference. There is fundamental technological differences, and the shitcoins can never have. It's like you can't discover something twice. And the way Bitcoin was built and grew cannot be replicated or copied, even though you can copy the code. And so every shitcoin will never be Bitcoin. They never can be Bitcoin ever. And so the public is just fooled every day by the equivalation. I don't even know if that's the right word, where they're being equated as somehow equal, and they simply aren't and never will be.
Right.
Go ahead, Hoddle.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
And I would add that the biggest difference to me is it's rules, not rules. It's an opt-in network, and there's no central bank, there's no central planning, there's no central person in charge. Every other altcoin, every other government, everything has those central planners. We don't have to deal with that. Whether you're Michael Saylor or someone who just got a few Satoshis, everyone has the same choice if you run a node. And that's a difference that I don't think anyone can replicate. And even if they try, how are they going to take the power away from the people who already have it?
Hey, I just wanted to dispel anybody's potential argument about centralization. Bitcoin was highly centralized when it started, but it was also a protocol nobody gave a crap about. It didn't have monetary value immediately. And even when certain people had it and it started to produce some monetary value, most people still never thought it could be what it is today. It grew into it, and it's because of that growth beyond the centralization aspect. When Satoshi left the project, Gavin Andreessen took over. He eventually left. Everybody in the beginning either is on the sidelines or walked away, rage quit, as we call it. And essentially, there is no central authority anymore. And that can't be replicated. It is literally impossible because no one will fall for it, essentially. And if you try to build this thing and then tell anyone about it, it will seem, you know, people already know what happened in Bitcoin. So nobody will let that happen again under the radar. It's a unique event in human history that cannot be replicated, period.
Correct. If you want to replicate the launch of Bitcoin, all you have to do is just launch a coin and have it have no value for about, I don't know how many, it was at least a year, but it was more than a year. It was like at least 15 months or maybe 16 months where Bitcoin had basically no price. And those circumstances just cannot be replicated, and it just kind of grew organically. People kind of testing it out, sending each other 1,000 Bitcoins back and forth just to try it out. That can never be replicated. Every coin that launches is going to have a price attached to it. Every coin that launches is going to have some sort of a group behind it that is promoting it, that is marketing it, that says, "Oh, we have a great community. Look at, come join our community. We're just like Bitcoin." So yeah, they're all basically just affinity scams, and there's different levels of affinity scams. Some affinity scams target artists. Some affinity scams target libertarians. Some affinity scams target people who are into privacy and like to buy drugs on a darknet market. So each one of these coins is a certain type of affinity scam, kind of targeting a different person. And I think so that's kind of my take on it. And of course,
there's a good segue in that.
Yeah.
And what I was thinking here as I'm listening to you, you mentioned the dark web markets and that kind of stuff. And anybody who's familiar with Bitcoin also might be familiar with the Silk Road and Ross Ulbricht, who is in jail very unjustly, needs to be released. He's paid way too high of a price for what he did. But getting back to Bitcoin and tying it to Ross, essentially, you had this digital currency that a handful of people on the planet knew about. And then Ross learned about it. And he looked at this as a way for people to freely trade on the internet with a form of value that was unconfiscatable and decentralized enough that governments necessarily couldn't shut it down directly. And so an underground market of people that don't give a crap about the government or a lot of the rules they impose on us decided to use this thing because at the time it was essentially free. No one could stop them. Russ builds a website around this whole idea that people should be able to trade stuff voluntarily using some value. And he found a way to create a website where Bitcoin could be used as that value transfer for the people who wanted to use that website. And without that bootstrapping, essentially, at a time when nobody could even believe that a private currency could be adopted by society, one man decided to try and use it. And then thousands of people found themselves also using it and finding value in its use as a money on the dark web, under the radar of governments, under the radar of the general public. And it grew in its value because some people decided to say, this is valuable to me. And that's what we do in life. We subjectively value the things we care about. And some people started to value Bitcoin as money because they were using it as money. Again, nobody essentially really realized this. So it grew in value. Then it became exposed to the world. And that's when politics started getting involved. That's when people started to realize they could maybe copy it and call it a better one. And all of a sudden it's on the radar of people. Again, very small, but it's on the radar now. It's out in the public a little more. And you can't replicate that. That is another thing that can never be replicated now in society where people already know about this stuff. You cannot launch another money, keep it under the radar for years with a handful of people trying to be secret about using it. That will never happen again. And it's because of that, because everybody walked away that was in charge of it and no one's in charge anymore. And the protocol runs itself, why Bitcoin can never be copied, or all these other altcoins can never be Bitcoin. And eventually, if the world wakes up to it and adopts the one best money on this planet, every other one faking being a money is going to zero, including Ethereum. For
Right.
you folks that think it's going to be the next Bitcoin, it's not.
Yeah, digital scarcity either exists or it doesn't exist. If it exists, it's been invented and it's Bitcoin. If it doesn't exist, then it's all fiat anyway. Now, you mentioned Ross Ulbricht and Triple Huddle. If you don't mind, I do want to bring up Jim Babb, who's a good friend of ours. I tried to come up with that.
Hey guys, if you also feel that Ross Ulbricht has served more than enough time for his crimes, please hit the like button on this video.
Absolutely.
So you guys, Patrick introduced Jim, but he just did a talk about freeing Ross. I wasn't able to listen to that talk because we were getting set up. I'd love to hear his input on this. So
yeah, take it away, Jim.
Patrick,
If you have anything to say about what we were just talking about, or if you want
Oh,
to summarize.
Jim, no. First, introduce yourself, but
Oh yeah, go ahead, Jim.
All right, I'm Jim Babb, Libertarian
He's good.
activist, Porkfest regular, obvious fan of Tone Vays, and especially when I see the nice screen graphic on the preview, I always want to tune in. Sometimes I don't watch it when I see the flames, I admit.
World of Rusty, right? Give shout out to him.
But anyway, definitely agree with what you were saying about Bitcoin versus the crypto, and I appreciate that distinction. And this is definitely, Porkfest was ground zero for Bitcoin, and especially with the anarchists, and that was a really big part of Bitcoin history right here.
Absolutely.
And
we're gonna talk to some people who are involved in that actually here momentarily.
Good. Yeah. So, this is where they are. So that's really exciting to be part of it. What you were saying about Ross, obviously very important. Freeross.org is where people can go, and there's a lot of details in there. I did a little presentation here to try to get new people up to speed because there's so many new people here. Although Ross, a lot of people have heard of the case. There's so much misinformation out there. There's so much BS that gets spread around about the case. It's better to go, go get some direct information. No matter what you think Ross did, the sentence is too much. I don't care what it
absolutely.
is. Whatever it is.
It wasn't even a violent crime.
Yeah,
the guy didn't even hurt
he was
a
never
single
charged.
person.
Yeah, he was never charged with anything.
That was violent.
He
Yeah.
didn't steal anything.
But
either.
they
It's
used allegations that they said, during sentencing, we've confirmed that 6 people died as a result of Silk Road.
And they were never. It was never confirmed that that's what. They
and then when it was looked into, it turned out to be complete BS, made up, and they're like, how could you even this is this? It's just part of the injustice every step of the way.
Just to introduce Jim Babb a little bit more. So the first time I met Jim was actually a month before I met you, Tone. So I met Jim in January of 2015 in New York City. I was living in LA at the time, and we were outside of the federal courthouse in New York, in Manhattan there, for the Silk Road trial. So that's the first time I ever met Jim, was back in January of 2015. You were there doing jury nullification pamphleting, and that's kind of your specialty, is jury nullification, and you talk about the Free Ross case all the time. So just want to, for the audience who doesn't know Jim, that's what his background is. He's very much into jury nullification. If you don't know what jury nullification is, Google it. Go to, what is the website you have? The jury rights.
I would just go to Fully Informed Jury Association.
Yeah, that's it. Fully Informed.
FIJA.org.
Yeah, FIJA.org. You can read all about jury nullification. If you ever call to be a juror, make sure you read that information, because it's stuff that you have a right as a juror that is kind of hidden from you. So I wanted
they don't want you to know that stuff.
Yeah.
The government does not want you to know your rights ever.
Of course not.
Yeah.
But I mean, the jury is sort of their last weak link in their tyrannical plans, because it actually takes a jury to say guilty before they can harm someone.
Can we not explain it on my YouTube channel, please? I don't want to get banned. Just guys, please go Google what jury nullification is. We can't talk about it anymore.
All right, fair enough, Tone.
Forgot we were using your stream, Tone.
This is about Bitcoin.
Yes, we're here talking about Bitcoin. That's right. So
no,
what about?
But throughout history, people that get the worst and most severe sentences are the people who the government is most scared of. Not the people that have done the biggest atrocities. It's always the people that they are most scared of. The government is not scared of a murderer. He will never get the same sentence as a person who they are scared of going forward.
Yeah, 100%. If an axe murderer goes free, you know, the government may not like it, but they don't care that much. But if a tax dodger goes free, that's actually an existential threat for the
exactly, because if a tax dodger goes free, he can spread the word.
Yeah, exactly. They don't want to see. No, they don't want that example to be shown to people. Like, oh wait, maybe I could do that. Yeah.
And sorry, what about the stuff we were saying before about Bitcoin versus all the others? Because I know that you've kind of been open more to other coins. What's your take on it? Do you have a different opinion than
I'm not a maximalist, but I'm a shitcoin minimalist.
Okay.
And
the word's spreading.
I got it. I haven't yet seen a need for something different, but if people want to experiment, I don't care. I'm not going to tell them. Tell them not to.
Yeah, we're good with that too.
I just like the equating the two as somehow equal. That's the part.
And it really does confuse people, especially now they think you know it's like, oh, Bitcoin. Yeah, I've got NFTs.
Yeah.
Oh man,
what? That is so far removed. That's not even an actual coin. That's like what people don't actually get. This is a little technical, but an NFT on a blockchain is just a string of numbers, right? That is a hash of a digital image. So when you own that hash, that digital string of numbers, it's like owning a Bitcoin essentially, even though it's not in the Bitcoin ecosystem. But you're buying a string of digital numbers, thinking you own a JPEG that anybody could right click and copy. It's the biggest scam, unbelievable. And you got celebrities out there hawking these things for $1 million. It's incredible.
Whatever floats your boat. But I think when it comes to Bitcoin, there's things that are a lot more important than collectibles and the unconfiscatability, which is to me the most important thing, especially as our governments are getting more and more tyrannical. Just the ability to have an asset that can't be taken away is huge. If I can't buy bubble gum with it easily, I don't care. To me, that is the most important feature to me, but everybody has their own perspective and their own needs.
Got it. All right. We can bring up somebody else unless you have anything else.
Also, by the way, I have a lot of questions here. I have questions from our live stream viewers. Someone.
Sure. Before you get to the questions, I want to bring up Doug. So can I?
We got Doug here. Beautiful.
Yeah, Doug, come on up. So Doug is one of the people that Jim Babb was talking about earlier. So Doug, why don't you take a minute to try to kind of tell your story about Porkfest and back in the day, because you haven't been to Porkfest for like 6 or 7 years, right? So welcome back to Porkfest. He's been gone for a few years, but back
the entire time I've been going, Doug stopped, and now Doug's there. Doug is usually the guy in a bathrobe, either on my streams or literally walking behind me when I crash at his house in Miami.
I should have brought my bathrobe. What was I thinking? Wait, Tone. I brought my shower towel. I can tell I'm at Porkfest because I'm wearing the same shirt for 3 days in a row and no one cares. And I've got a bar of soap in my pocket because I got to hit the showers on the way back up here.
No, this is not Doug Polk. This is Doug Scribner. I'm answering my live stream. And Doug, oh, there's Satoshi. There's the puppy.
Say something, Satoshi. He's just he wants a nap. He is having so much fun here.
Yeah, Doug, why don't you tell your story, and then I think Tone has some questions from the live stream. But tell your story a little bit from Porkfest from back in the day. I
started coming to Porkfest 2010. There was no Bitcoin, but I won Miss Porky Poll, the inaugural Miss Porky Poll. Don't ask. And then 2011 is when I bought my first Bitcoin after Bardo Fest.
Okay.
And I started selling smoothies, but didn't do Bitcoin at that time.
So that was 2011. Okay.
Yeah, but I certainly took cash and went to the Bitcoin booth and bought Bitcoin in 2011. Okay. That's when I started. 2012, I sold smoothies for Bitcoin. There was a crash in the market. Bitcoin was down to $6. One smoothie, one Bitcoin.
There you go. $6 a Bitcoin.
I got 3 Casacious coins out of that deal and 7 Bitcoin total. And then I took all the cash that I made, went to the Bitcoin booth with Roger, Ver, Charlie Shrem, Eric Voorhees, and bought more Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of, and then I stayed at, came to Porkfest the next year, sold smoothies again, and 2016 was last year, and I'm back for the first time.
Okay, so 2016 was your last year. My first year was 2017. So that's we completely missed each other. Okay, gotcha.
On a side note, I've already had to explain to multiple people that Doug Scribner is not gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And you just made my job harder by telling the audience of my channel that you won Miss Porky Poll.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
it's because I was so athletic and ripped. I was the only one who could do the trick that we were all taught.
So supposedly you had a really good trainer, which is a mutual friend of ours. I don't know if we want to say who it is, but you had a really good trainer named Michelle Seven.
Michelle Seven was the greatest trainer. Yeah, she taught me how to do this.
So she was a gymnast, I think. So she kind of helped Doug out.
Exactly. So. I got a picture of it on Facebook somewhere. I need to bring it down here. But, inaugural Miss Porky Poll. By the way, the next year's Miss Porky Poll was Michelle Voorhees.
Oh, Michelle Voorhees. Okay.
She won
I don't think I've met her. Okay. I've met Eric. I don't think I've met his wife. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
She's hot.
All right. So
also, Doug Scribner is not the Mexico commune guy. Jesus Christ, Doug. People are confusing you with so many people.
All right. And are there any more audience? I want to get these audience questions. Are there any good ones, by any chance? Besides,
are there any questions from your audience? If not, we have some here. Also, I'm kind of texting them to you in Telegram, only for kind of reference so that I don't forget what they are. So you don't really need to look at your Telegram, but there'll be a bunch of stuff there just as a reference.
Okay, got it. Got it. Yeah.
I call myself a mini-maximalist.
Oh yeah, we wanted to talk about that. Yeah. So give us your take, because you call yourself a shitcoiner at some point.
No, I never did. Mini-maximalist is what I've done. And Tone and I are only friends. The only reason he hasn't disowned me is because when I pool and stake and earn shitcoin rewards, I sell them for cash to avoid capital gains.
Okay.
It funds all of my business and business endeavors and that other things that I do with the cash.
Sure.
And then I avoid paying capital gains because I sell the rewards instantly. And I've got a team of people who do, and then I stack sats.
Right.
So this dip right now, I've moved into cash Tone. I sold a lot of Ethereum for cash. I'll be buying Bitcoin when Tone tells me it's safe to start going up again.
Best reason to subscribe.
Yeah.
Is it safe?
I don't know.
Is it safe? That's a good question. So what do you think about what is your idea of the distinction between Bitcoin and everything else? Like, I know you said you have some Ethereum, but do you really think that Bitcoin stands apart, or is it all just a part of Coke, Pepsi? What's your take on it?
Bitcoin stands apart. It's an anonymous founder, the fairest drop, the highest, earliest thing. I agree with a lot of the people here that bummed out that, you know, their coin didn't become cash. Bitcoin isn't cash anymore yet. It is a store of value. It is digital gold. The narrative did change. I get it. Don't worry about it, people. There'll be other things. It's a slow moving network that that people really care for. So it'll be updated the slowest. But we've got SegWit, and people still think, Tone, to this day, Ernie Hancock is telling me how bad the fees on Bitcoin are.
Because he doesn't know.
I paid a 6 cent fee.
Because he doesn't know.
I know. I paid a 6
I was
cent
just on his show again. Like, I think I've done probably a dozen. What's the show again called? Shoot.
Freedom's Phoenix.
Freedom's Phoenix. Yeah. Independence with Ernie Hancock, right? It was so I've done a show like a dozen times. I did it a few months ago, and I'm still like, I'm like regurgitating like my 2015 talking points to him. It's insane.
Right. No, they're saying the same thing that they said in 2017. And they're saying that same thing because someone told them to say it. Now, I'm not going to say who that person is. You can make up your own mind. But it's not just Ernie Hancock that's saying it. It's also, you know, people on Free Talk Live, people like Ari.
Is Ernie there? Is Ernie there?
Is Ernie? I believe.
Yeah,
Ernie,
he's up the hill.
Ernie might be here.
No, he came. No, I'm just curious. He came to Porkfest. No, I kind of missed it. I couldn't make it this year, but I'll do my best next year. I'll do my best to come back. It's so much fun over there. It's really cool.
Yeah, try to come next year. But that's a very good point, Doug. I can really appreciate that perspective. You know, I guess if let's see if we can bring up somebody else. You want? Okay, so
wish you were here, Tone.
Okay.
I gotta go chase the dog and take a shower.
Did you want to come up, sir? The guy with the squirrel shirt. I don't want to dox your name. So and maybe Surfer or either Surfer Jim or Triple Huddle. One of you guys can come back. Can hop back up. All right.
See ya, man.
And we may be getting another guest. He said he'll be back in 5 minutes. So I don't want to dox your name, but I'll let you introduce yourself and kind of give you. You could say what you're doing here at Porkfest and then how it's going.
Yeah, I'm Edward. It's my fourth time at Porkfest. Been coming here since 2015 on and off. Tone, it's great to be on the show. It was good to see you last year, and you guys had a great booth and doing more great stuff this year. So it's good to be here.
Thank you so much. Thanks for hopping up here, Edward. Edward, right?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. Can I call you Ed?
Yeah.
Okay, it's just so I don't say Edwin by mistake. All right, so Ed, so you kind of have this take. I was a little bit surprised because I was speaking to you last night, and you're doing something here at Porkfest. It really doesn't have anything to do with Bitcoin, but you do have a kind of based on what I spoke to you about, kind of a maximalist mentality. Do you have anything to add? What do you think? Do you think that there's a clear difference between Bitcoin and every other coin? And if so, what do you think that is?
Yeah, I think definitely. It's definitely a maximalist. I think, like you've said, that the economics just really, there's a incentive to have just one coin that whatever inflates to the least, whatever everybody else is using, that's going to outcompete all the other coins in terms of money. And I think it was Meester who said a while ago, he's like, money is the only use of a blockchain that we've discovered so far. There might be other uses, but none of them work out. Like everybody keeps suggesting, oh, this is like, you know, real estate on the blockchain, and when you dig into it, like the incentives aren't there. The mining doesn't make sense. It requires some sort of oracle in the real world. NFTs, they try that, but it doesn't make any sense because somebody copies your NFT, you can't take them to copyright court.
Right.
So, yeah, there might be another use for an altcoin for doing something that isn't money, but Bitcoin was the money, and we haven't found anything else yet for.
Well, I think a lot of people here like to talk about decentralization. That decentralization is important, and I think decentralization is important for certain things. For example, money. You want money to be decentralized. You want language to be. You don't want to have a final authority on language because language kind of changes and evolves over time. New words get invented. Words change meanings over time. You know, a word that meant something 200 years ago may mean something different now. And so certain things you want to be decentralized. You want it to be organic. And money needs to be decentralized because if anybody is in charge of it, the incentive to just print more for yourself is just way too great, which is why Bitcoin is decentralized and why money needs to be decentralized. I don't necessarily think every company needs to be decentralized. I don't necessarily think, a car manufacturer needs to be decentralized. I don't necessarily think, a Twitter needs to be decentralized. I know that you've criticized Twitter on your channel a lot. But honestly, I think that there's no easy solution to that problem. Decentralizing Twitter doesn't fix the problem; it just creates new problems. So I think the only thing that actually.
Oh, by the way, Patrick, I am disappointed at the decentralization of the English language. The definition of anti-vaxxer and immunity had absolutely no problem being changed in the last year and a half.
Yeah, 100%. You know, because that's why we don't want to have a central authority to say what it is. So I think we lost camera. So can you guys still hear me? Hopefully. Oh, you know what? I think I may have accidentally hit it myself. My bad. Okay. All right, we're back. I think it may have been just me accidentally.
No, that's cool because I did something weird on my end too, and I'm like, wait, did I do that? No, I did not have the ability to turn off your camera.
All right, and then Ed, did you have anything else to say? I wanted to bring up another guest. Did you have anything else to add? Oh, do you want to promote what you're doing here at Porkfest or something like that with the business, or what? It's not a business or whatever it is you're doing here at Porkfest.
Oh yeah, it's part of that Porkfest excitement. The showers at the campground here are pretty.
Hey guys, your audio just got very low. I don't know what changed. Your audio got very low, and the camera, it managed to just be like sunlight bright. I have no idea what happened.
We may have trouble with our internet connection, so that may be it. But hopefully, can you hear me okay now?
It's a little quieter.
Okay, I'll try to.
I don't think it's the internet connection. I think it's something with the wire.
Oh, with the wire. Yeah.
Did it switch mics when it?
I see you. It's just that the camera angle. I don't know. It's just like it's like.
No, the camera's. I mean, it's as long as you can see us. I know it's not perfect, but can you hear us? That's the more important one. That's.
I hear you, but like maybe at a 40% quieter. Oh, the camera just got better, way better.
Okay. All right.
But the audio is still about 40% quieter. I don't know what caused that.
Let me see here. Microphone. What's the name of your microphone? Okay.
Whoa! That just fixed it. Whatever you just did, it fixed it. Like I said, it's probably the wire. It's probably a wire.
No, I switched mics. So we're using this mic. Okay, so this one's better. All right, so go ahead.
Way better.
Continue what you were saying. What are you doing here at Porkfest?
Oh yeah. So the campground here is pretty atrocious facilities, unfortunately, and so we set up our own shower facility. Communal showers, it's a great experience. Come take another shower with your fellow porcupine. It's a good way to experience Porkfest and get clean, and yeah, it's great.
Yep. So there's a problem here at Porkfest every year. The water sucks, but you know, there's entrepreneurs and there's people here that there's always a solution. So okay. Thanks for coming on, Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to bring up someone who's been a very prominent Bitcoiner and a very prominent Libertarian for a long time. He's part of the Mises caucus that recently took over the Libertarian Party. So let me introduce Stefan Kinsella. He's going to say a few words about some of the stuff that he's doing to try to protect Bitcoin and actually crypto in general. And then I wanted to get his take on what we've been talking about also. So Tone, you know Stefan, I'm sure. So
hey Tone.
Hey, how are you?
All right.
So Stefan, so you've been working on so you're a patent attorney by trade, and you're very good on speaking about issues of intellectual property as it comes to here at Libertarian events. Like I know that you did a really cool speech on how intellectual property isn't property. I don't know what year it was, but it was before I came to Porkfest. It may have been 2015 or 2016, and I listened to it on YouTube, and it was a really good speech. So I really liked your take on that. What I wanted you to talk about first is you're kind of having a foundation going on that's trying to help protect these patent trolls from patenting the blockchain and all this stuff, so that other people can't use it. So I wanted to have you give your spiel on that, and then kind of give your take on what we've been talking about so far.
Oh, sure, yeah. So I've been involved in intellectual property for a long time as my career, but also opposing it for over 20 years. And trying to point out that it's unjust, it causes monopolies, it reduces competition, it impedes innovation, and it's just part of the criminal police state. And it is now being used, predictably, to harm Bitcoin by certain bad actors, as we call them. So I allied together with a group of like-minded people a couple of years ago, different Bitcoin people from different countries, to try to come together to find resources to fight one of the threats to Bitcoin and the ecosystem, which is from patents filed by certain companies, which they then threaten to assert, or they actually assert against different Bitcoin companies that they claim are violating their patent law, their patent rights, and their intellectual property rights. So our goal, there are different groups. There's one called COPA, which is associated with Square, and they're trying to do an alliance. Our group is the Open Crypto Foundation.com, and our goal is to identify patents that have been issued in the crypto space and to attack them in the different patent offices in Europe and America and other places, and to say, look, you should not have granted this patent. So we're trying to invalidate patents that are a threat to the Bitcoin ecosystem. So that is our mission. We just changed our name. We used to be the Open Crypto Alliance. Now we're the Open Crypto Foundation. So
what's the domain on that? It sounds like you're doing God's work, and I got some questions whenever you're ready.
It's opencryptofoundation.com. We just went live with the website like yesterday or today.
Right, which is why when I Google Open Crypto Foundation, I actually get nothing.
Yeah,
so
it just went live. So, but opencryptofoundation.com will get you there right now.
Okay, this sounds great. And you guys have a Twitter?
Yes, I think it's Open Crypto X, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's the one. Okay, I'm gonna do screen share. I want people to see this. Opencryptofoundation.com. I personally am not a fan of intellectual property patents. I'm not a huge fan of that. There are some very limited use cases where it could be used for good. In my experience, IP patents are generally used for evil and to hold back technological adoption across all industries. There is a very limited space. I'm okay with them for a short amount of time, as long as you can continue to prove that you are actually building out your intellectual property. Otherwise, someone else should have a chance to build out that knowledge. But now we got to run into a problem of which authority decides on whether you're actually continuing to build out your intellectual property. So I am generally not a huge fan of it. This looks really great. Oh, Alexandra, she's a friend of this Tone Vays network. So This is great. Yeah, I am all on board with this. So if you are ready for questions, and there's your Twitter, I'm going to go ahead and follow this because I'll let you finish. And then I got a question/comment. Go for it.
Well, I had a quick question for Stefan, because I know that a lot of times people, when they are patent trolls and they try to sue people for using a certain technology, what they do is these attorneys, they try to fight the patent in court. But by that time, it's very difficult because you have an uphill battle, because the patent has already been approved by that point. And so now I think the burden of proof is kind of switched on you to try to say that it's a bogus patent. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to actually stop them when at the time that they're applying for the patent, and because in that case the burden of proof is a little bit switched, and it's a little bit easier to stop them rather than waiting for after the patent is approved, then trying to fight it after the fact when they try to sue someone.
Yeah,
so is that kind of what the philosophy is there?
Yeah, you've got the basic idea. So so it's not just the burden of proof. It's actually like in the US system, a patent has what's called a presumption of validity. So if someone has an issued patent, which means the patent office has a bunch of technical guys that have approved it, and they said it's valid, like it's a new thing, it's non-obvious over the prior art, then it has a presumption of validity. And so if they sue you, one of your defenses could be the patent is invalid, it should not have been granted, but you have the burden of proof, and you have to show, and you have to overcome the presumption of validity, which is very, very difficult and very expensive. It costs millions of dollars typically to defend a patent suit, which is why people usually settle, which is why patent trolls go around collecting small fees from people, etc. Now, there are procedures in different patent offices around the world, like in the US and in Europe and in the UK, where if you intervene while the patent is pending, it's a lot less costly. You can just simply submit a document saying, listen, Mr. Examiner, I want you to consider this document and don't grant the patent in the first place. or in some countries, there's a limited ability to appeal it outside of the court system after it's granted or issued, like within a couple of years or a couple of months or something like that. So we're trying to focus on doing that. So filing these basically submissions early on that show that the patent office either should not have granted it or they shouldn't grant it now, before you have to go to court and spend millions to defend it.
Tone, are there any questions from the audience, or did you want me to look at Telegram?
Well, we'll get to the Telegram. So, what do you know? And this is going to be someone I've known in the space for a while, and is a friend of Tone Vays's, but it goes in a little bit of a contradiction with patents. What do you know about Reggie Middleton's DeFi patent US 111-96566 and JP 6813477? Because according to Reggie Middleton, he has a patent on everything and anything that has to do with crypto technology.
Well, so part of the problem is that the patent systems do sometimes allow people to get a patent on something that you think is outrageous. Now, in my view, all patents are outrageous. Some of them are obviously so. But it also breeds scammers and puffers and liars and con artists who claim more than they get, or you know. So I remember seeing this guy's name, and I know he's one of these guys that he seems to be claiming way more than he really has. I have a feeling that his patents, if they exist, are either they would be easy to challenge. I don't know. I'd have to look at them individually. So
they do exist, and I would love for you to look at them, because I've been meaning to get them on a show, even though I don't do interviews anymore. But this is one of those things where it's a really interesting debate. Like we have mutual lawyer friends. And this is really interesting, because anything outside of a Bitcoin transaction apparently falls under Reggie Middleton's patents.
Well, the way to think about it is the broader. So a patent is has a description that explains the background problem, and then the technology you think you've come up with to solve a problem. And then you have a set of claims, which are your claim to property, right? Claim 1, claim 2, all the way to 20 or 50 or 60 or whatever. And usually the simplest way to do it is look at claim 1, which sets out their broad claim. And the broader that it is, that is, the more inventions or the more applications that it covers, the more likely it is that it's invalid, because the broader it is, the more likely it is there is prior art that should have been considered and invalidated. So when people make these broad claims, they're either liars, or they're incompetent, or they're puffers, or they're promoters, or they're just dishonest, or they don't know what they're talking about. So the way you would do a show is you would have a guy like that on, and you would say, we're gonna go through the language of claim 1 of your patent, which would be the broad claim, and we're gonna get you to explain what it means and justify why you should have a property right on that set of ideas, and use the government courts to stop people from doing something similar. It's usually ridiculous. Usually the idea came before. Usually it's too broad. Usually it's so vague, no one knows what it means. And half the time these inventors hire some shitty patent firm to do it for them, and they don't even know what the lawyers are doing. The lawyers don't care. They get paid. It's just a racket.
Yeah. Very frustrating.
Yeah, because in his description, it says 2013 founder of DeFi.
Yeah.
Founder of DeFi.
Again, the description is irrelevant. What I would focus on is claim 1. That's what you focus on in a patent. Look at claim number 1. It will say what is claimed is the number 1, and then it'll have a sentence.
Yeah, so I would love for you to check out these 2 patents. Okay. And then I would love to do a show with you and Reggie or his patent attorney, whoever wants to join, and we can discuss his patents in detail, because I've said from day one, he will not be able to defend these patents. Now, there is a silver lining here. Technically speaking, he can probably go after Ethereum and claim that every single Ethereum transaction violates his patent, and he deserves a royalty from every single Ethereum transaction. As much as I would find enjoyment in having that happen and somehow get enforced, I'm not exactly sure how. and have it apply to everything else in the shitcoin crypto space, if that gorgeousness happens to work out, it could also apply to something like the liquid side chain of Bitcoin, or maybe even the Lightning Network, who knows? So this is the weird thing with patents, really weird thing with patents. The other benefit of this actually is the SEC took down Veritasium. He was one of the casualties, one of the few casualties that the SEC actually went after and completely kind of like destroyed. I didn't think he would be one of them. I thought there were like 1,000 more way scammier projects for them to go after. But the SEC went after him, and in that SEC takedown of Reggie Middleton, the SEC claimed that he said there were patents that didn't, they said that he lied about patents. And then the patents actually came through. So technically, he can go after the SEC for taking him down because they said he lied about patents, but the patents were granted. So technically, he didn't lie about the patents. So he may have a short window there to go after the SEC for wrongful, takedown. It's a really interesting situation.
Well, so let me point out one thing that's interesting about patent law. So all these libertarians who are totally confused about intellectual property and they think it's a good thing, like copyright and patent. And by the way, copyright is also used by certain bad actors in the space to try to threaten people to take the white paper down because they have a copyright in it. Because they're
I'm not a fan of copyright. I'm a fan of trademark. I like trademark law, and that's pretty much where it is.
We'll have another show, but they're all bad. But I would say patent, copyright's number 2. Trademark is number 3, trade secrets number 4, boat hole designs are number 5. I mean, we can go down the list, but the point is that defenders of patents say that it's not a monopoly, although strangely enough, it's a violation of antitrust law in the US if you claim to have a patent and you don't. So this gets to what you're talking about with Reggie, because if you say you have a patent, it discourages people from competing with you because they know that they can't compete. And you're only supposed to discourage people from competing with you if the government actually grants you the patent. So in other words, it's legalized anti-competitive protectionism. So the whole thing is totally corrupt and wrong.
Tone, can I jump in here for a sec?
Yeah, of course.
So Stefan, I know you have to be a little bit more diplomatic than I do or that Tone does, because you kind of have this foundation, which is to protect Bitcoin essentially, but it's also kind of to protect all of crypto. But do you have a take on this? Because I know you've kind of early in Bitcoin, and do you have a take on this, on what separates Bitcoin from the rest of crypto, or do you want to just kind of remain diplomatic and neutral?
No. I've long ago passed that line.
Okay.
I've been an anarchist and a Rothbardian and a politically incorrect white male for a long time, and I don't know. Unfortunately for my enemies, I'm not cancelable, so fuck them. I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. I think that Bitcoin solves a problem, which is that we need money, and the money we have is taken over by the government, so it can be inflated. So the problem that Bitcoin solves is that it comes up with a way to have a money that can't be inflated and censored and all that. But I believe with the Austrians that you only need one money. And I don't see any reason why anything other than Bitcoin would be that one. It could be something else, but I think that all these shit coins are total shit coins. And I just, the idea that you have one money for this and one money for that is completely contrary to the notion of money. So I'm a Bitcoin maximalist because I think you need one. I think Bitcoin gets you 99.8% of the way towards an ideal money, and it's good enough. There are others that could have done it, in my view. I think Bitcoin SV, BCH, others could have done it, even Dogecoin or Litecoin. I don't know. I don't see why any of them couldn't be it. It's just that there's no reason for them to be. So I'm a BTC maximalist, and I'm totally skeptical of all the scammers. And yeah, that's my take on it. I'm a BTC maximalist.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of solid. I mean, when the first time I talked with you, I believe it was on Clubhouse, and I was actually surprised to see you in a Bitcoin room, because I just kind of knew you as the patent attorney, the libertarian patent attorney. I didn't really know that you were really into Bitcoin, so I was kind of surprised to see you in the Bitcoin Clubhouse room. But yeah, you, based on everything you were telling me, you kind of we were on the same page.
I bought Bitcoin in 2012 because I lost a bet to VJ Boy Patty. I said that if it goes over $6, the government will kill it. So we bet $100 and I was wrong. So I bought 3 Bitcoins to pay him at $30 each. And I bought a couple me and it all started from there. So I was wrong. The government is too slow and stupid to outlaw it right away. And hopefully they won't be able to do it.
Can't close the barn door now.
Yeah. But I'm just a hodler. I'm not a big expert, but I've been called upon to ask about the libertarian legal issues, like is Bitcoin property, these kinds of things. And so I've weighed in on that because I think technically as a libertarian, you cannot own Bitcoin because it's merely information. It's just a place on a spreadsheet that's distributed on computers around the world. But that's not a criticism of it. It's actually your security of your Bitcoin is better than property rights. So you can call it a property right, but legally speaking, it's not actually a property right.
And I hope you don't mind, Stefan, but I have actually used your argument. I have said on Bitcoin or on Twitter, nobody can own a Bitcoin, kind of using your argument because it is information. You can't actually own information. And it is a positive because how does the government prove that these string of numbers belongs to you? Just because you may know the private key, it doesn't mean you're the only person who knows the private key. Maybe multiple people know the private key. So how do you prove that it's yours?
Well, so this it all plays together, like understanding libertarian basics, property theory, Austrian economics, intellectual property, they all tie together. So for example, certain people are using patents to threaten Bitcoin. They're using copyright to threaten Bitcoin, probably trademark too in some cases. Also defamation law, right? Which I view as a type of intellectual property because defamation law is totally unjust and criminal, and it's based upon reputation rights, which is also informational. And you have certain actors, I'm not going to say names because they might use defamation law or to sue me. But certain people have used antitrust law to say that certain combinations of the splits with BSV and BCH and all this were illegitimate and violated antitrust law. But the point is the remedy that they sought, they went to a federal court, I believe in Florida. They wanted the court to issue an order to roll back the blockchain to give them their Bitcoins back. So, but this shows that Bitcoin is not ownable because to own Bitcoin would mean you have a property right in everyone else's computer because you can issue an order to them. You need to roll back the way your memory is registered on your computer because the blockchain is stored in many copies on many thousands of computers. So the only way to own Bitcoin would be to have the right to tell people to roll the data on their own computers back. But in my view, they own their computers. So that's why all these laws are totally unjust. And that's why the concept of Bitcoin as being an ownable property right is completely flawed. You don't need it, and it can lead to statist threats to the Bitcoin ecosystem.
Oh, that's the type of conversation. That's a super great argument.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tone, this is the type of conversation you can have at Porkfest late at night, sitting around a fire with everyone has something that they're smoking in their hands. Like, you can never own a Bitcoin, it's just numbers, man, so it's super, super deep. So anyway, Stefan, thank you so much for stopping by. I don't know, did you want to talk about the Mises caucus takeover or anything about that?
If you're interested, I was there in Reno. I was part of it. It was fun to see. I do think the Libertarian Party.
By the way, most of Tone's audience has no idea what we're talking about.
Okay.
Just FYI.
So there's a movement.
Give us a bit of a background. So go ahead, take 5 minutes and talk about it.
So we're probably going to wrap up maybe in 10 minutes.
So we're going to get into left-wing intersectionality. Like, there's an intersection between libertarianism and Austrian economics and Bitcoin, right? There's a lot of commonality between these groups. I'm a libertarian. And of that group, I'm an Austrian and an anarchist. So I'm like a radical libertarian, but I'm also a Bitcoiner. And a lot of Bitcoiners are libertarians and Austrians, right? And so you have this thing called the Libertarian Party in the US, which has always been sort of Republican light and kind of mainstream, and they don't accomplish very much. And a lot of us radical libertarians got fed up with the way they handled the COVID regime lockdown bullshit. And they didn't have a strong message against it, and they sort of played into the PC woke crap about bigotry and all this stuff. So, a movement mounted about 4 or 5 years ago, a subgroup called the Mises Caucus, influenced by radical libertarian thinking like Murray Rothbard, Mises, and the Austrian thinkers, and they grew in influence and domination in the party. And at the national convention last month in Reno, they took over the whole party. It was a complete victory. So I expect going forward, the Libertarian Party will be way more principled, way more clear, way more radical, way less kiss ass, and I don't know if they'll have more results and more wins, but at least when someone says they're a libertarian and they're running for office, they will actually be a libertarian, not a Gary Johnson or a Bill Weld or some milquetoast, Republican.
Not a leftist who hates taxes. Taxes, I mean. Well, actually, yeah, I'm kind of interested because I wouldn't necessarily call myself a member of the Mises Caucus, but I'm kind of taking a wait and see approach to seeing what result this brings. I'm a free stater and I'm open to all libertarians, but I'm kind of curious to see what direction the Mises Caucus takes the Libertarian Party with. And my concern isn't so much about the wokeness, because I'm honestly, you can have a woke libertarian and unwoke. My interest is if there's a different strategy when it comes to how do you want to approach the Libertarian Party, what races do you want to focus on, how you want to run. That's my interest.
And their strategy is this: I think they're saying that it's very unlikely we're going to win president national things. So let's at least get a libertarian candidate who can articulate our views. Don't sell out and get a moderate former Republican governor who can get more votes, but is still going to lose, but he's not articulating our vision.
That's a fair.
But then focus on local elections like, school board and council selectman. Yeah. Go ahead, Jim.
Surfer Jim has a question. What's your question, Surfer Jim? We'll repeat it because they can't hear you. Go ahead.
What's the Libertarian Party's Bitcoin position?
Okay.
I don't think there's
hold on. Yes. What's the Libertarian Party's Bitcoin position? Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we actually we updated the platform at Reno, but I don't think we got around to a Bitcoin position. I think most actual libertarians that are now part of the LP are very, very, very pro Bitcoin, especially the Austrians. And the Mises Caucus is Austrian, and most of them are strongly pro Bitcoin, and they're pretty much Bitcoin maximalists, I think, by and large.
So I like that strategy of having a good libertarian that can kind of articulate the libertarian viewpoint to run as president. The only other thing that I would ask you is, what do you think about this strategy of just playing spoiler, just focusing on the swing states and just try to be spoiler between the Republicans and Democrats, try to get enough votes where it's more than the margin of victory between either side? Do you like that strategy, that guerrilla strategy?
I suspect that they did that in 2020. I suspect that Trump lost because of the Libertarian Party.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's their focus, but I think the reality is there. So if we have issue coalitions and we focus on minor people and we have enough of an articulate vision to tell people that this is an alternative, and we start drawing enough of the vote away, then we can use that to either influence the other parties to start adopting our positions, which is good enough. I mean, if the Democrat or the Republican Party became libertarian, that's okay with me too. I don't care what the name is, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
Or if they see that we might spoil them and they give us some concessions. So I don't think that's a bad policy to do either. But I'm not a policy guy, so I think politics is hopeless. But I just want libertarians who call themselves libertarians to be libertarians.
Yeah,
I'm pretty simple.
So I'm really excited to see what happens with the Libertarian Party. I'm really excited to see what the Mises Caucus does. Thank you so much for coming on, Stefan. If there's anything else you want to say, we've been going for almost an hour, Tone. So I don't know if you probably want to wrap it up soon, but yeah, do you have anything else to say
I'd love to wrap it up. We got some questions from my live stream viewers just to help them fight the shitcoiners and explain Bitcoin in a better way. So maybe we can go through those real quick. I'd love to get Surfer Jim up there to help us with this section.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for stopping in, Stefan. Appreciate
Thanks, man.
All right. Hello. What was he? I couldn't quite hear what you were saying. You wanted us to talk about, Tone.
Okay, so last night I got a couple of questions. A fan of mine said, Tone, I've been trying to convince friends and family why Bitcoin and not scam coins. And it's just very basic questions that we can probably do a quick rundown. There was also this DARPA report, which is hilarious. I can pull it up where they are. Anyway, maybe we're not even going to get into that. So really, really simple questions. Let's start with the energy cost of mining versus the low price of Bitcoin. Why would anyone mine Bitcoin if it keeps dropping? The basic question number one. Do you guys want to answer first, and then I go?
I'll take that one first. It's a very good economic question. You have one of the great things about Bitcoin, which a lot of other altcoins are actually criticizing, is the fact that we have ASICs. We have machines that are specifically designed just for mining Bitcoin, and they can't really do anything else other than mining Bitcoin. And a lot of people, like Monero people, think that that's a bad thing. but actually it's actually a good thing because you have a lot of these big mining operations which have invested millions of dollars into getting this equipment, and the only thing they can really do with this equipment is mine Bitcoin. So the fact that they have sunk cost into this means that they will continue to mine Bitcoin, including possibly at a loss going forward, because they've already spent the money on the equipment and they can't really be repurposed to do something else. So the fact that there are ASICs, there are high-end ASIC manufacturers, more than one, that manufacture Bitcoin mining equipment is actually a great thing, and it just means that people will continue to mine even at a loss.
I would just add in that the cost of mining is variable all over the world. Obviously, it's tied to the cost of your electricity, and depending on the machines you're running and the cost of your electricity, the price of Bitcoin could drop in half from where it is now, and there's be miners all over the world that are still profitable. So there's plenty of people not losing a dime mining Bitcoin. And as a side note, for those who would be thinking, well, it's polluting the environment, all that, we could talk a long time about it, but a lot of the mining is using the most efficient, the most least saleable energy. Energy that gets wasted is being turned into Bitcoin because Bitcoiners have figured out that the people who have that energy that goes to waste, like flared gas, can make money when they turn it into Bitcoin. And so now you're using something that was polluting the earth and just wasting money and turning it into Bitcoin. So Bitcoin helps the environment. And that's another reason why some people will never shut off their miners, because an oil rig, they gotta do something with that excess gas, those oil wells that we know about. And so even if they're losing money on Bitcoin, it would still cost them more to flare it. You see what I mean? So like they're still cutting their loss.
They also pollute the environment more by flaring it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, but my point is, if they're going to be a loss, but they mine some Bitcoin, they're cutting their loss to less, right? So there's almost no incentive for them to never mine. And of course, we know when hash rate drops off, some people say, oh, I can't mine, it's too expensive. The difficulty adjustment changes and it becomes easier for those that remain to continue mining, again, readjusting itself. The system, as we know, readjusts itself automatically. And so it allows people to stay in the game and keep mining.
Well, there's this concept called a difficulty trap, which is, let's say the hash rate drops suddenly by a lot. Because the difficulty adjustment happens every 2016 blocks, and if blocks take longer and longer to mine, it would take more than 2 weeks for that difficulty adjustment. It may take, like, say, 4 weeks or something. But even in that case, after those 4 weeks are done, or whatever it is, or 2 months even, the difficulty will adjust downward, and it'll get easier to mine. And maybe some miners that turned off their machines will come back online because, like as Jim said, it's easier to mine, it's more profitable.
Huddle, what do you got to say about this?
Well, and the other thing is, we waste so much energy worldwide, especially in Canada. There's enough renewable energy from hydro to run the entire network.
Yeah,
and it's stranded. They can't do anything with it.
Exactly. It's energy that's happening anywhere. Every second of the day, water is falling off of a cliff, and it can be harnessed and turned into Bitcoin.
It's already being produced. It's already being used. And so places like that, which have a very, very low cost, are where the miners will eventually end up. And it may be through energy producers, it may be through large companies, but eventually you want to find the lowest price you can for your variable cost, and your variable cost is electricity. And so there's always going to be an incentive for those companies to get something rather than waste it and get nothing. And so while that helps the environment in certain cases like flare gas, it also doesn't hurt the environment when you're using stuff that's already produced.
How's that, Tone? You think some of your skeptical relatives and friends are gonna get the bigger picture out of that?
Yeah, no, it's great. And it also answered one of the other questions is people always are like the shitcoiners have them convinced that proof of work is evil. I mean, these two questions are so silly. I answered the mining question a different way. There will always be miners of last resort in Bitcoin. They don't exist anywhere else. Like, I would love to mine Bitcoin if these giant miners are no longer profitable. If they all shut down, I'd love to run a miner or two again. We're all pay for stuff. My most recent explanation is, do you make money by mining the internet? No, you pay money to use the internet. We pay Bitcoin transactions to use Bitcoin. There's nothing wrong with that. People will pay a mining bill, and people will pay an extra $100 a month in their electricity bill for the survival of the Bitcoin network. So if these big miners are no longer profitable, we're all going to do it. There'll be at least 1 million people in the world willing to pay $100 or $50 a month to keep the Bitcoin network alive and decentralized. The way there is 1 billion people right now paying $50 a month to use the internet. It's no different than that. That's a really, really silly argument. There is no mining floor. It doesn't exist. Like, there will always be mining. Plus, if the price of Bitcoin falls low enough, we all get free mining equipment. Like, basically, they're all going to throw it away. Well, like, mining is not going anywhere. Now, the notion that proof of work is bad, anyone who thinks proof of work is bad would have been out there with pitchforks saying that electricity is bad when it first came out. Why do we need electricity? Look at this thing. Now we got to put wires in. Why can't we just use candles? Same people that would have said, why do we need a car? Horse is way easier to use than a car. These are the same people. These are the same ignorant people. Proof of work is the technological innovation of the 21st century. It really is. And anyone that doesn't understand why proof of work is so important and so innovative, you would have been the guy against electricity, against the steam engine, against the car, against flight. Why do we need an airplane? That's insane. We can get around on cars. You're that person. You're that same person. So that's basically the argument on proof of work. It's too silly to continue to explain. Now, the crackdown in China is still a problem for people. I don't understand why. You guys want to just keep it short, because, again, these are just such stupid points that I don't understand why we constantly have to keep explaining them.
Yeah, I mean, there's still mining going on in China even after the crackdown. But yeah, the mining, the little that did shut down moved elsewhere, and I believe we're close to an all-time high in hash rate after the China mining ban. So it's a non-issue as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it goes to the broader picture of the way this industry works, because Bitcoin is truly decentralized, run on computers all over the world, not only just the full nodes, but the mining nodes. Anything any single government can do is simply create conditions where their own citizens can't be part of the network, but the rest of the world doesn't care. And so there's a short-term effect. There's always like a political angle to it where people get afraid, people that don't know enough. But the system keeps going every 10 minutes. You know, what do we say? TikTok, next block. Right. And the network is not shutting off because one government, one part of the world screwed their own citizens over. So it becomes totally irrelevant, but people they don't get the whole big picture of how Bitcoin works. So it seems like, oh, when one government bans it, it's almost dead, but they just don't realize, you know, because they don't understand Bitcoin enough. But yeah, the argument's a joke, obviously.
Also, by the way, last statistic I saw, there's 25% of all Bitcoin is still being mined in China. It used to be 50 and change.
That's a joke then. Yeah. It's like nothing even happened. It was like, that's hilarious. Yeah. We did see a drop in hash rate though. That's obvious on the network. That can't be faked. But it didn't last long, and we are higher than who was it that said it? Patrick,
we're close to an all-time high right now.
Yeah, like we're higher than we were before that ban. So like the network as a whole just keeps growing. So
and
some people, yeah, go ahead.
I'd say if anything, it really proves the resilience and the global nature. And those are two great things that people just don't see at first look. It's like, where did they move? Russia, Kyrgyzstan, and Texas, basically, as well as other places. But if one country bans it, it doesn't matter because you go somewhere else. And worst case scenario, everybody ends up in El Salvador. I mean, I think there's as long as one miner is still running and there's people still believe in it and still using it, Bitcoin doesn't die. And so, I mean, that's the biggest difference to me, again, with altcoins is some of them are dead. Like they might not be, they're not in use. People aren't using them. Bitcoin won't die. There's too many people that believe in it and are going to run a miner and are going to use it somewhere in the world.
True, I agree. Another question was about regulation in Korea over the Terra debacle. No one gives a shit about regulation in Korea. it makes no difference whatsoever. It's completely irrelevant. The only regulation that matters is the US regulation. All other regulation are completely irrelevant. And it's debatable whether US regulation even matters. And that's, oh yeah, and people still think Monero is a thing.
Well, yeah, there are a lot of Monero people here at Porkfest, and I think that privacy coins are just another affinity scam. It's basically, hey, you're into, you want to buy, you don't think there should be laws against alcohol or laws against drugs or whatever. So, and I think that too. So therefore, you should use my shitcoin because you can buy that stuff. It's the same thing that happened with Celsius. There's a lot of people who hate banks. So what did the Celsius guy say? He said, oh, I hate banks too. Use my shitcoin. So it's just another affinity scam. And privacy coins are just one flavor of the affinity scam. Bcash was another flavor of the affinity scam for libertarians. Celsius is anybody who hates banks. They're supposed to use Celsius. So it's just another affinity scam. Monero is.
I don't have much to add other than I don't believe Monero will be adopted as a worldwide money. And so it's just, if it stays alive, it'll just be like a Chuck E. Cheese token that a handful of people are willing to trade around for some value because they see it and the rest of the world doesn't. I just don't think it will ever equate or eclipse Bitcoin.
Yeah, I agree. It's not decentralized and it's not scalable. And what else is there?
It's got no network effects, essentially, not on a worldwide scale.
And they're ASIC resistant, which we just explained was a bad thing.
The ASIC resistant is so stupid. Anyway, so we're not going to talk about this, but I do encourage people to go and check out Swan's blog, fact check of the DARPA. I hate the fact that they're using fact check. To me, anytime I see fact check, it means some kind of a scammer from Facebook has decided on what the truth is. I got to talk to Swan about changing this notation. Maybe, I don't know, change to anything else other than fact check. But it's a great piece by Tomer and Jan explaining this latest DARPA report as to all the problems with Bitcoin that they apparently discovered in 2013, and they were wrong back then, and they are still wrong today. All right, and we're probably going to be wrapping it up there. If you guys want to say your closing thoughts.
No, Tone. I think I'm Bitcoin Motorist. Everyone knows me already on your channel. So, and come to Porkfest next year. Anyone who's listening. So we're going to try to do this thing again next year. The Bitcoin Lounge.
Yeah, hey Tone, thanks for hosting us. As always, it's a pleasure talking to you. I love your insight. I thought this was a great episode because we had a bunch of non-regulars, or guys that may not be at the same place at the same time generally, and they were here and they wanted to participate. The subjects got a little bit broader, kept coming back to Bitcoin. I think it's good general education for anybody who happens to tune in. So I thought it went great. So thank you for hosting it, and hopefully you'll be here with us next year.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you guys.
Alan, thanks for having me. And biggest thing is separate money and state. I mean, that's why I'm in it. And there's a lot of people that feel the same way.
And I would say, to add to that, Porkfest is here because the people that are here want to separate a lot of things from the state, not just the money, right? They control our lives in way too many ways. Jeffrey Tucker's talk yesterday was about things like laundry detergent and how stupidly regulated it is. I mean, there's an insane amount of stupid stuff the government forces us into, and they need to back up. And,
I lost your audio. No audio.
Okay.
How about now?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry about that. I may have hit the button. I was going to say, hopefully Jeffrey Tucker comes back next year. He comes here almost every year. So if you come to Porkfest and you only see one person speak, make sure it's Jeffrey Tucker. He always has some really good advice. He gave us 10 life hacks in this speech. I think he's going to give another speech later, but the first speech was 10 life hacks. It was a simple stuff. Get triple triphosphate or whatever it's called, put it in your laundry.
Trisodium phosphate.
Put
that in your laundry, everything will come really, really clean. That's the thing they made people take out. And you could buy it on the shelf in Home Depot.
Yeah.
It cleans aluminum siding really good in the construction industry. And that's why it's in Home Depot. But if you put it in your laundry, like, this is the thing. I didn't even know this. I was sitting there listening to him yesterday. I'm like, wow, that's a cool thing. I didn't even know. Get my laundry a little cleaner next time.
Yeah. He did a bunch of other.
For you.
You could buy a really nice suit for a cheap price by just knowing your size and going to hunt on what does he say, eBay, I think. And also just a few teaspoons of the trisodium phosphate, and also the shower heads. The shower heads are completely broken, and the toilets are completely broken in America.
He told people how to turn up their water pressure by going to the water main out by the street that the water company controls. He goes, yeah, just go out there. They won't do it for you, and a plumber won't do it for you, but it's easy to do it yourself, and then you can get better water pressure in your own house.
It's illegal for a plumber to do it for you, but you could do it yourself. It's so weird.
It's hilarious.
That sounds like a great speech, man. If you have a video of that, I'd love to get
I got a video of like a minute of it. I don't think we get a full video, but
but don't they record them? Doesn't someone at Porkfest record these things?
Being like a keynote, it probably got recorded. I wasn't looking at cameras, but hopefully it was either at least audio. We'll see.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Those sound awesome. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for those joining in the live audience. And hopefully we'll do this again in person with me